And now, the piece de resistance. We move on to the Atlantic Division. Last year's standings. Toronto in first, Celtics in second, Sixers in third, Nets in fourth, Knicks in fifth. Everyone but the Knicks made the playoffs, even without Kyrie and Kevin Durant for the Nets, so the Atlantic Division was looking pretty good in the East. And we'll start off with the Raptors. So they're still looking for a new star or even a free agent star, but they're still a very high quality team, as we saw last season. Good coaching, good culture, guys that really listen to everything and have grown together, good young budding stars and everything, really meshing together well, obviously equates to a good team. They drafted Malachi Flynn and Jalen Harris. They added Watanabe, Elise Johnson, Alex Len, Aaron Baines, and DeAndre Bembry. They lost Ibaka, Marc Gasol, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, DeJuan Hernandez, and Malcolm Miller. Now, this is one team that I think the added and lost are either pretty close to even or a little more on the negative side. Just because Ibaka looked revitalized last year and had like one of his best seasons. Marc Gasol was a big-time defensive player for this team that also still gave them the stretch five ability. And let's not also forget that Marc Gasol is a big reason why Toronto could really beat Philly a lot, because Marc Gasol locked down Joel Embiid all the time. Embiid was like afraid of Marc Gasol almost. Marc Gasol was like the quintessential Embiid stopper, especially since at the time the Sixers had Al Horford on the team, who was the other Embiid stopper. So that'll be something to look for when they face the Sixers, big time. They did re-sign Fred VanVleet, which is a big win for their future. They still have Lowry around. They re-signed Boucher, still on the team as a backup big. One of the things that I think is going to be the most important for the Raptors this year, and one of the biggest storylines to look for, is going to be the growth of Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. I think that OG really needs to step up and become the true third option of this team. We saw a lot of good games out of him in the bubble. We saw him with like a game-winning shot. We saw him with some 20-point games in there. I think that needs to become a consistent thing for the Raptors to take another step and to be able to really be ready if they do get a star to win another championship. Now that Giannis has re-signed in Milwaukee, they have to figure out who that next star is going to be if it's not someone that takes a next step on their team as it is. Pascal Siakam, another one. He did improve a lot of his stats last year, but he also we need to see that be efficient as well, not just growing stats because of a ridiculously high volume of shots and usage that he's taking. So that's another one to look for. I think both are very good candidates to take another step, especially OG Anunoby, and that'll be two big storylines to watch for. On top of, let's see what Fred VanVleet does now that he got his money. Is he going to be complacent? Is he going to keep competing at the highest level like he has been? What is going to come of that now that he got his contract? Now, the Boston Celtics, I think, so far are looking around the same as last year. They drafted Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, Yam Madar. They added Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague, but they lost Hayward, Cantor, Poirier, and Wanamaker. Losing Hayward and Cantor, I don't think, are humongous hits to the team. Hayward, while he gave them, a quality fifth starter and a quality wing, I think that, he really wasn't doing all that much. There were some times that he contributed defensively. He contributed here and there all around at different spots, but was never really back to his, old self that they originally got in the first place. So I don't think that's a huge hit. Drafting Nesmith was big for them because they definitely needed the shooting coming off the bench. Drafting Pritchard as well, I think, gives them a solid, I don't want to say a solid backup point guard, because I feel like that's That's not something you exactly look for. To be honest, I was a little iffy about this pick in the first place. Somebody compared him to Jalen Brunson, which I think that could be a decent comp, but we'll see exactly. You got to wait and see for that one because Brunson has really played himself into a role that is useful for Dallas. But now with Kemba still nursing some knee issues, I think that does become important. So we'll have to see what Pritchard turns out to be. So that was an interesting pick, but it's a wait and see kind of thing. We'll have to see how Pritchard actually does come season time. Kemba, as I said, still having knee issues, so that is going to be a big thing to watch for. If he continues to have these nagging knee issues the whole season, I don't think this team goes anywhere as far as they did because Kemba was a big part of the offense. Yes, Tatum and Brown are still the de facto, 1-2 punch on this team, but if you don't have Kemba and your main 2 point guards after that are Jeff Teague and Pritchard with Marcus Smart, doing a lot in there at shooting guard and point guard and small forward, I don't think that takes you as far as you went last season. Tatum and Brown, like I said, still looking like the real deal, number 1, number 2 punch. I think that one of the big storylines, aside from Kemba's knee issues, is going to be the play from the bigs and the bench squad. You really have to see, now that they brought in Tristan Thompson, they still have Daniel Tice, still have Taco Fall. So I think that, one of the big question marks with this team that has been a question mark for a lot of the recent seasons is their play from the center power forward spot. And I think that's going to continue to be a storyline and something going to be very important, especially the storyline with the bench squad with Kemba going to be hurt. So you got to figure that out. In their preseason game against the Sixers, Tatum and Brown looked good. Pritchard had a little bit of decent moments. Teague wasn't missing, so that looked good. But overall, the team pretty much looked the same. And if they stayed the same and others got better, that means they're going to drop. So that's really what that's looking like. So moving on to the Sixers. They're looking fresh and new right now. Doc Rivers coming in, new coach, new system, new voice in the locker room. They drafted Tyrese Maxey, Isaiah Joe, Paul Reed. They added Seth Curry, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, Terrence Ferguson, Justin Anderson, and Tony Bradley. And they lost Horford, Richardson, Zaire Smith, Burks, Glenn Robinson III, Howell Neto, Norvel Pell, Mariel Shayok, and Kyle O'Quinn. Definitely added a lot more talent than they lost. If we're being honest, out of the guys they lost, the only ones that were really giving any kind of minutes were Horford, Richardson, and Burks. Neto here and there. But even then, Horford and Richardson were just not a good fit with this team. The team needed shooters. The team needed people who could also play on the other side of the ball. Richardson gave you the defensive side, but very sporadically gave you the offensive side. Horford just never turned out to be what they thought he was going to be. And the rest of those guys didn't really do anything. They now finally part with Zaire Smith, who they got in a trade for Mikal Bridges. Obviously, trade looking pretty dumb. Zaire Smith still has barely even touched the NBA floor with a lot of the injuries and the really scary allergic reaction he had. So, best wishes to Zaire Smith. Definitely someone I got to see play a lot when I was taking pictures at the Bluecoats, as well as Pell and Shayok, too. Definitely some good guys there. We'll see how they end up panning out. But they added shooters in Seth Curry, Danny Green. They added backup big man in Dwight Howard. Even a backup big man in Tony Bradley. Terrence Ferguson, give you some athleticism off the bench. Now you have a backup point guard too. Well, I should say a third string point guard too in Maxey. Also depending how well he does in this first season. Shooter in Isaiah Joe. Paul Reed, a stretch 4 that, they're probably going to be more G League play than NBA play, so we'll see what he does. So you added a lot of what this team needs around Ben Simmons. One of the storylines I think is going to be watching these core guys in Doc's system, watching Simmons, Embiid, Tobias in Doc's system is going to be something to look for. We have seen Tobias thrive in that system before. We have yet to see Ben Simmons and Embiid in another system other than Brett Brown's. And I don't exactly know what that system was. It was just something. So it's going to be very interesting to see them. Another one is that Embiid seems refocused as well. He seems as motivated as ever. He looked to be lighter on his feet in the first preseason game, moving around very well, not lumbering whatsoever like he was last season. It looks like he's having fun again. And another thing is going to be Simmons' growth. Is Simmons going to grow to what everyone wants him to be? Is he going to shoot more? Is he going to be the electrifying, more point scoring, more assist kind of player? What is going to happen with Ben Simmons? In that first game, he looked like the usual Ben Simmons from last season. I don't know if that's good or bad right now, but it just looked like normal Ben Simmons. So we'll have to see from there. The other thing is, are we going to get a next step from Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, and Matisse Thybulle? Thybulle didn't really look good in that preseason game. Shake Milton looked very good in that preseason game. Korkmaz looked decent. He was actually finishing some and ones. He looked like he put on a little bit of muscle. He was looking decent. So Thybulle, I think, becomes the big question mark, especially after a guy like Maxey looked pretty good. What is Thybulle going to give you now? Is he going to be the premier defensive wing that he looked like he was going to be? Is he going to give you a little bit more than that on offense? What's going to happen with Matisse? I think that's a huge thing to look for with this team. Overall, though, I think the team will end up doing better than last season just because there's new motivation, there's new energy. It's a breath of fresh air now with this team is what it looks like. So we'll have to see what happens. Now, on to the Brooklyn Nets. They're looking as scary as ever, which is expected. I mean, we knew once Kyrie and Kevin Durant come back that the team is going to look very scary. They both did very well in their first preseason game. Draft-wise, they drafted Reggie Perry. I don't think that's going to really mean as much in the long run. They added Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, and Landry Shamet. They lost Garrett Temple, Justin Anderson, Wilson Chandler, Lance Thomas, Dante Hall, Jamal Crawford, and Zanan Musa. I don't really think it mattered much who they lost or added, but the addition of Landry Shamet is big because now you have two big-time shooters in Landry and Joe Harris. Them, along with Kevin Durant and Kyrie, along with Jared Allen, excuse me, along with Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, that's a scary team. I mean, honestly, I don't even need to say much more about this team. The storyline I think to look for is the growth from LeVert, Dinwiddie, and Jared Allen. The bench squad is going to need to step up big time because we know the starting squad is going to give you plenty of points. Defense will be something to look for too. We got to see what the defense is looking like because we know Kyrie is not known for his defense. Durant stepped up his defense in Golden State. Jared Allen, a decent defender. Karis LeVert, okay defender. So we'll have to see what the defense is like. I mean, obviously, if you outscore the other team even without defense, then the defense isn't really going to matter as much. But, hey, teams got better. You're going to have to score a lot of points. So, and then finally, we have the Knicks. They continue to build. They actually had a good offseason this offseason. They drafted Obi Toppin and Emmanuel quickly. Added Austin Rivers, Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel. They lost Portis, Gibson, Ellington, Harkless, Dotson, and Hicks. The draft, I thought they did very well. Obi Toppin, I think, will be a solid player for them. Quickly, I think, could definitely grow for them as well. Um, I like the additions of Rivers, Burks, and Noel. A bunch of guys that will contribute quality minutes, and some of them that been in the league a little bit. They could help out with some of these young guys. Just a veteran presence in general. But there's a few things to look for, I think, for the Knicks. One of them is will Kevin Knox be a bust or not? He did not have a good rookie season. He had a worse sophomore season. So now, is that trend going to continue, or is something going to change with Knox if they add some more people that kind of open up the court for him? Personally, when they first drafted Knox, I didn't think it was the right pick for them. So I don't want to say he's going to be a bust, but I don't think he's going to turn out to be anything of value for the Knicks. And once that happens, you can't really trade him away because no one's going to want that in terms of like a guy who's been regressing each season from his rookie year, and it's only like 3-4 years into his career. So that's not going to look good. We have to see what kind of season Knox can kind of muster up here to see if he's going to be knocked out of the league or not. RJ Barrett needs to show improved shooting from the floor on all levels. His three-point shooting was horrendous. His field goal percentage in general was horrendous. There's a lot he still has to prove. A lot of people are just saying like he's de facto number one, like the best guy on the team. But Barrett still has a ton of stuff he needs to prove. Zion, his teammate in college, doing a lot better than him, which, I mean, was kind of expected. But still, Barrett has a lot to show. Will he have a sophomore slump? Will he actually get back to shooting what they need him to shoot? That's going to be something to look for. And then two other things are they still need to find a point guard. I mean, they have a few on the roster. Elfrid Payton doesn't look like their point guard. Nida Lakina, I feel like at this point probably is, ruled out as their point guard moving forward after they start to finally try to compete. Austin Rivers will probably fill the point guard roles for now. And then they have Dennis Smith Jr., who I think is just trying to do way too much. I think he's trying to do a lot of what he did his rookie season. And when they figured him out after his rookie season, it kind of all went downhill. So now it's just all downhill. And the last one, it's Mitchell Robinson's time to shine for the starting lineup. I've seen depth charts that say Nerlens Noel's going to start. I think that would be dumb in the Knicks case. You should definitely have Mitchell Robinson starting, especially with, how efficient he has been last season. And this is the guy you drafted. This is a guy that, this is going to be a guy that, might end up being the diamond in the rough kind of player for the Knicks. And I think if you're the Knicks, that's big for you because finally you can say like, hey, look at the guys we've drafted. They've ended up being really good. And that kind of gets your reputation up first off. And second off, it gets you a starting center, which you definitely need because it's been a long time since you've had a quality starting center. Probably since like Amari Stoudemire or I guess was Tyson Chandler decent on the team back then? I don't know. One of those guys probably. So there's a lot of storylines looking for the Knicks. At least they had a good offseason. One of their first good off seasons in a while, to be honest with you. So I think that there's a lot of things to look for them as well. So now the final division prediction for the Atlantic. I have the Nets in first, the Sixers in second, the Celtics in third, the Raptors in fourth, and the Knicks in fifth. Now, even though I put the Raptors in fourth, the Nets were in fourth last year at 35-37. All these teams can definitely be way over 500 and still be, there. I think that these teams are going to be very close this season, and it's only going to be like a few games that split a lot of them. So overall, even though I have the Raptors down in fourth, I still think they're going to do very well. But overall in the East, I think what I have is the Bucks in first. I have the Bucks in first, the Nets in second, and then I think I have the Heat in third, and then the Sixers in fourth, the Celtics in fifth, the Raptors in sixth, the Pacers in seventh, and the Wizards in eighth. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your Eastern Conference preview. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check out basketballsocietyonline.com. A lot of new content, NBA, WNBA, college, women's college, everything going up there all the time. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter, Instagram. I'm at __fish for Twitter, at thatkidfish for Instagram, and Fish is FISCH. Basketball Society _ is our Instagram. BB Society _ is our Twitter. Make sure you check those out as well. Also, check out the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. A lot of great sports podcasts on there, so make sure you check them out as well. And as always, guys, thank you for listening to the Atlantic Files, the #1 podcast on the #1 division in the NBA. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.